Here over at SubScribestar. So Gina Carano's greatest struggle. I want to put a title in there about like she fails Hollywood, like art school or something. So the fall of Disney. There's two bits of news in regards to Disney. Is that Disney settled with Ms. Carano, Mandalorian actress, and two, they stopped publishing their subscriber numbers for Disney Plus, and they gave I should almost read the statement. It's several paragraphs long, but it's all the corporate doublespeak where they say, like their interests are best served by not publishing the subscriber numbers, which is weird. I mean, why wouldn't you show those numbers off? I would think that'd be a selling point to get people interested in your success. Oh, it probably, I'm guessing the subscriber numbers are not as good as they expected, and then the future subscriber numbers are probably predicted to be pretty bad because, if they suddenly went up, I suspect they would publish them again. So first, there's a misunderstanding on a civil procedure that I see a lot of people on Twitter raise this, and they never thought to go search what the 75K means. People see that she sued in federal court civilly for, they think it's $75,000 because they see that number. It's like, well, you probably should have noticed that you see that number all the time in civil cases. That's an amount in controversy for federal court subject matter jurisdiction. The amount actually sought was much more than that. That's just one of their diversity jurisdiction requirements. So what happened is pretty interesting because it's kind of one piece of the culture war that Disney is at the heart of. Plus, it includes the corruption of Star Wars, and when Carano was fired, I think she was probably fired at a bit past the peak of woke, but you don't really know when something is peaking until you're on the downward side of it. And now it's been a couple years later, and we're definitely on the downward side of that kind of woke. Woke's not going away. Corporations are not stopping, and Hollywood is definitely not stopping. That's one we're kind of more interested in because, it is fun to have good movies. It's like every once in a while I think, these movies are so stupid. It feels weird to be, I don't know, like a Coomer consumer, but it's like it's okay to have good stories told in a visual format with great sound in a theater. That's like, you have the technology. There's nothing like a big screen experience. The sound, you're in the setting, and you're not distracted by a cell phone, or you shouldn't be. And it's a big screen. You've got popcorn. It's like you're there. It's a different experience. Those stories should be great stories. And there's no shortage of classical European stories, for example, from various pantheons, if you want to go that route, or historical stories. It doesn't seem odd that they're not telling those big picture history stories with, now you wouldn't actually get like thousands of horses and build sets that bankrupt a company. You could use CGI for a lot of the kind of stuff, but they're not telling those stories. Instead, because those stories, we're telling an ancient Roman story. Where are all the black people? And they're like, this isn't Disney. This is reality. So no, those like stories suck, but you shouldn't feel like a Coomer for missing Hollywood. But every once in a while I do. It's just because you have to go back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s to actually go. Even those big production Bible stories were a lot of fun, just because the amount of work and people and extras on the set that they got to film these stories. I remember one filmed in like Technicolor or something, and my buddy and I were watching it, and one of the characters is pointing out over the hillside and goes, "There's a man among the sheep." Anyway, so Gina Carano was fired at a bit past of what I think of as peak woke, and I put that in a pin in the timeline when people started to understand Star Wars was not going to turn around, and Disney wasn't either, as well as they have a lot of other sub-properties like Indiana Jones and things like that, and those are not turning around either. So Disney came out with their Star Wars trilogy in 2015, and it wasn't good, and the follow-up films were not good either. People were kind of hoping that number 2 would turn things around. It definitely didn't. And then Solo came out, I think between 2 and 3, and people expressed their displeasure with the direction Star Wars was going in because that movie lost money, like a lot of money. And I think it was like a $300 million movie that Disney was expecting to take Star Wars in a new woke direction. It definitely did not do that. And it was the first time Star Wars had lost money. Now, that should have been a come to Jesus moment for the Moloch worshippers over at Disney, and they are. And people were thinking, rightfully so, that Star Wars was dead. Then they come out with The Mandalorian, which had some of the old 77 gritty Tatooine vibe. And that's obviously the direction they should go in. And it started to feel like, okay, maybe they've learned a lesson. They're going to start turning things around. But this was when people were pretending to take the whole wrong pronoun stuff seriously. That was when like people would identify as the other sex or something. And like young kids and woke people had to pretend that to take that stuff seriously. It's like I don't understand. You just have to purposely not understand it until they lose their fucking minds, which is awesome. And then BLM was big during that time period. And then people learned that that's pretty much just a bunch of violent criminals, and Floyd is better off where he is. No offense. So the Twitter slacktivist wanted to put her pronouns in her bio, which is see how easily I know her pronouns. It's easy to identify her, which is obviously unnecessary because she's clearly a woman. Those magnificent milkers don't lie. So she wrote her pronouns as beep boop, and the virtue signaling pussies pretended to get outraged because their whole belief system is just Bolshevik garbage. None of the stupid things they believe are real. And I mean, I guess you are a little bit on the downside of woke because the surgeries for kids are being canceled. They don't do that anymore in Europe, and Kaiser just canceled their thing as well. So you got to wait till 18 to sterilize yourself. Anyway, so Disney got triggered when Disney got triggered and they wanted her to come in like a conference call with a bunch of weird people at Disney who were going to gang up on her. And you know, usually when that scenario happens, you go like, I'll talk to one person. I'm not going to talk to a dozen people. Like, have one representative. Otherwise it's just like six people yelling at me. I don't think she took that call. She realized like she did not want to stay with Disney, and they were probably not going to stay with her. But they were giving her a chance to turn things around. It's like, if a bunch of angry lesbians are going to lecture me for an hour, I'd just rather not work at Disney. So they kept attacking her, the Twitter idiots, and she had a post about how the globalist parasite media is dehumanizing right-wing people, and it's time to dial things back before neighbors turn on each other. And Disney publicly fired her for that. Then Musk got involved and got her an attorney, and Disney looked at the situation and decided, you know, we've had enough bad publicity with everything, with the Ron DeSantis stuff in Florida from years ago, and then they're continually failing movies, and they simply paid her a settlement, and what that is, several $1 million. It's the $75K is not related. So winning or losing the case doesn't matter because probably nobody's going to hire Carano now, but it would show how evil Disney was and the double standard because they didn't fire the various left-wing people for their political comments, which are every bit as spicy. I think Pedro Pascal had a bunch of things, and other people as well, including one Disney person says something about putting MAGA children in a wood chipper or something abhorrent. And then James Gunn had a bunch of tweets about kids. Like, you can find that stuff online. And they hired him back. So Disney's not in the position they used to be in. Their brand is now associated with being filthy and globalist degenerates, where Epstein Island probably be a ride in their parks. Maybe it will be. They had public internet meetings. They're talking about how all their kids were trans and gay, so they should make movies to reflect that sodomy. And they did make one cartoon animation. It's a mixed race couple on some foreign alien planet, and they've got kids, and the kids are children, and they're gay or something. So it's about a gay child sodomy relationship, race mixing. I mean, it's like every buzzword you could have. And Disney Plus apparently is losing money, as well as their movies, which they could fix if they wanted to, but they don't want to. So a public case like this, where they're dragged through discovery and her lawyer, giving statements every other day, they don't want to do that. They looked at the settlement and go, for a relative small amount of money for them, which would be somewhere in the millions, we can just make this go away. So a settlement saves the image, and ultimately it'd probably end up saving money. This is kind of also a public acknowledgement that Disney went too far with woke, but that's not going to make them change course. The kids were also triggered about her not taking the Wu flu treatment that came out. That was a hot button issue for a little while, because the modern left wing was a left versus right issue. If you were asleep for the past couple of years, I'm of course pure blood, because I don't trust the media, government, and big pharmaceutical companies to have my best interests at heart. It makes me a Nazi. So like the left wing didn't trust the media, government, and big pharma as well. So what changed? What happened to the left? Like, oh, those are far right, like Nazi dog whistles to say don't trust like those three institutions. What are you talking about? These were left-wing talking points. Remember when Bush was in office? Military-industrial complex, but now it's the medical media government complex, and now they suddenly trust it because they think the bankers are on their side. They went from Occupy Wall Street. The Occupy Wall Street is the most fascinating example, because they were doing that like they were on the right path, if you know what I'm saying. That is a far right dog whistle. And they and then a couple years later it just dissolved, and next thing you know, Bank of America is funding some gay march and funding Antifa. It's like, who's paying for all those signs? Oh, it's not Soros, but it's a wholly owned subsidiary of a company. So it is actually him. It's like actually him. You just lied. You're just gaslighting us. Okay, technically it is him, but he wants what's best for us. So you left-wing kids are advocating to like take money away from billionaires, and it used to be millionaires, but then Bernie said no, we need to go after the billionaires. Okay, well there's not many billionaires. Like, shouldn't we go after the millionaires? It's like millionaire doesn't really mean as much anymore with inflation. Thanks, Federal Reserve. So they switched it to billionaires. Like, shouldn't we go after Congress people who are worth $100 million? How did Elizabeth Warren get that kind of money? How did Nancy Pelosi get that kind of money? Why does Bernie Sanders, a socialist candidate, have 3 homes? Where was I going with that? I don't know. The thing is, they got triggered about the Wu flu, the pronouns. And then the last straw was she showed a picture of World War II or something, and she showed like how people got started, and she said, "Yeah, why don't we just dial things back a little bit?" And they fired her for that. And then people looked at her, and they looked at Mando, and they looked at Disney, and they go, "She seems like just a perfectly sweet, somebody's mother picture, especially with those milkers." And they look at Disney and go, "You guys are pushing childhood degeneracy and just the worst things for kids." And you look at Gina Carano's giant milkers and her pretty smiley face and go, "She's probably the good guy in this scenario. She seems like she's pretty reasonable. She didn't want to do pronouns. She's telling people to dial things down." And you very publicly tried to humiliate her and fire her. And if it wasn't for Elon Musk, she probably would have let it go. But he came to the rescue. And Disney chose to capitulate instead of dragging this thing on. Oh, the thing with the left-wing kids, the socialists, they go, "Yeah, we're funded by these billionaires, and we want to take money away from them." It's like, you ever stop them to go, "So you think they're funding you because you think that you're going to be successful in your stated goals?" I mean, that's insane. So clearly they're using you to do something else. Like, you're a Starbucks employee marching around with a sign paid for by these Soros types, and you think that you're the ones in charge. That's crazy. These are billionaires, and they have you on strings. But the left wing doesn't realize that. Otherwise, they'd join us on the far extreme right and dog whistle in every video. Anyway, always trust the government, the media, and pharmaceutical companies, because that's fucking insane. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.